Hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome to
Very
this wonderful webinar about post-match success and what to do. As many of you may be extremely confused, defeated, or hopefully some of you are victorious and have achieved your medical residency and are looking to see what to do from now until June orientation day. And really, residence medical in general. And this webinar is about hope, solutions, and really being that voice for all of those who don't have those extra hands pushing them in the background, being a medical school or even being a family or friends. So I'd like to do an introduction of the panel and myself, and then what we'll do is we will, if you can put this out, what we'll do is we will speak about really things that are pertinent and give you guys wisdom, guidance, and if you call the office, we'll give you free advice on what we can do and how we can help you. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our distinguished panel. I am Dr. Michael Everest, the founder and chairman of Residence Medical Group. We are an education and consulting or agency organization. Our first goal is to educate society, educate our students into being better, more confident doctors, converging on our six core competencies, some of which are emotional stability and maturity, and having good time management, and really, really having the tools that distinguished gentlemen like Dr. McGuire, or I should say Professor McGuire, look for. And in that, I would like to introduce Professor McGuire. He is one of the most distinguished doctors, psychiatrists in the world, and
thank
that's
you.
in print. He's a graduate of our beloved SLU, St. Louis University, that my foundation has supported for many, many years in their GME initiatives, and we're proud to. He is the line is long, so you guys hold your breath here now. He is the professor and chair at the Department of Psychology at the UC Riverside School of Medicine. He's also the associate dean. He's a program director of a new psychiatry program that's opening up, and the director of medical education and the designated institution officer at College Medical Center. Which, if you understand the hierarchy in medicine, there's your uh, assistant program directors, and designated institution officers that oversee all of the residencies. And his signature is what goes on, even if the program director approves a potential future resident, his signature goes on to as a final approval. If he says no, then it doesn't matter what even the program director says. And then I'd like to really introduce, and thank you for doing this, Dr. Maki.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
sorry.
we'll
Sorry.
have everyone say a word.
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to also say something, a little something about Dr. McGuire is he has overcome challenges, right? If I may, as a public
Sure.
knowledge,
Please.
he has a stuttering problem. He's dedicated his life to stuttering. So if you guys are going through anything that you think will hold you back, then here's your living example that the highest echelons of both public service, medicine, and just a kind heart can be accomplished. Um, and then I'd like to introduce Dr. Maki. Dr. Maki is very dear to us. He is a newer graduate from the Caribbean islands, and he came to us really defeated. He actually, for a moment, went out of medicine and went into business, solar panels, if I recall correctly.
That's correct.
And one of his friends recommended us, and he was he didn't really understand the methodology of residence medical. So his residency specialist counselor, Mr. Simrad Gill, really helped him understand. And he had many times where he was doubting. We sent him on many interviews that he did not get a residency, and he just kept at it. Everything we asked him to do, go do a rotation here, go integrate here, go integrate there, on the weekends, on Sunday, interview prep. He never said no to anything. There were times where he felt defeated, and our team lifted him back up and always let him know that we will make this happen if he is committed to improving his curriculum vitae, strengthening his curriculum vitae, and strengthening his interpersonal skills, which are already good. So he was blessed enough, and we'll go on to it further, to get a pre-match position in Mississippi in a categorical family medicine. and we'll go through that journey a little bit down the line. So that's the introduction, and I would like to pass the mic, as they say, to Professor McGuire. If you would say a few words and introduce yourself kindly, sir.
Thank you. Well, thank you very, very much, Dr. Everest. Great to be meeting with you, Dr. Mackey. And thank you all for joining today. I am Dr. Gerald McGuire. I was, until a couple years ago, the founding chair at UC Riverside. And I like to view, and I'm a professor emeritus Long Beach. And I served as the designated institutional official at UC Irvine for many years. I was the vice dean there and the residency director there of psychiatry. And I'm also now the designated institutional official at a new program, new sponsoring institution that we've got getting started in Oroville, California, which is Northern California, north of Sacramento. And I'm a psychiatrist. I treat patients. I also do research on stuttering. And that's me. I'm a SLU graduate, proud SLU graduate. And I thank you, Dr. Everest, for this opportunity. Did you want me to keep going?
Can you guys hear me?
Dr. Maki, I think we can hear you loud and clear. Sorry.
Yep, I'm good now. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Avish. Nice to meet you, Dr. McGuire. My name is Jaffer Mackey. I've been with Resident Medical for about a year. Uh, and my journey was I had kind of multiple attempts on my Step 2 CS. And, for a lot of IMGs, that can be a big deal for a lot of program directors. And after trying to match a few times with no success, I was kind of defeated. And I lost confidence in myself as an applicant, and that's when I reached out to Resident Medical. And really, what they did is help me build confidence back in my application as myself as a candidate. They helped me get clinical rotations from very quality institutions, new strong letters of recommendation, interview prep, which for me, I believe the interview prep and, of course, the multiple attempts were the reason I wasn't having success, and they helped fill those gaps. So this is a beautiful program, guys. I just want to give everybody, the same chance and opportunity that I had because, I know what it's like to be in your position. And this is a great program. And if you guys, have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you for those kind words. I'd like to go on and to really get right down to the nitty gritty. And then I know that Mr. Marvin, you have some good questions about stuttering and such. So we will get to that. I just want to give a little preview of the topic, the foundation of post-match success, leveraging resources and networks. So this is really the core of what Residence Medical does. If you go to SLU or Stanford or you go to UCLA or these other tier one schools, you as a medical student have enormous resources behind you. Your fighting for you, your counselor is fighting for you, your attendees are fighting for you, and prior to the match process, and even the so-called, they're on the phone, picking up, calling, and doing everything to really help you because you have an infrastructure. A lot of students that go to tier two U.S. medical schools or that go to Caribbean schools, international schools, you don't have that strength. You don't have that team behind you. You're picking up the phone post match or prior to the match, calling programs, getting an answering service. You're not getting called back. You get frustrated. And what Residence Medical does within the parameters of the system in a proper way, um, we have built relationships with the programs where they know that our students are vetted. Many of them rotate there. And really, our magic is the program integration. Individuals and fine individuals like Dr. Maki have been in a program for 6, 7, 8 months, showing their face, interacting with the staff, and they see how he is. Or do they choose someone on paper that's a number, or do they choose someone that they've known? And that's really the essence point of really being able to prove yourself. And also, it's important to understand the different phases. You have your aerospace in September when it opens up, where you apply. You have to strategically apply. If you're a foreign student that needs a visa, only apply to those programs. If you're an international medical graduate, I recommend applying to community-based programs, not so much university-based programs. If you and you have to choose, you have to look at their score requirements. Passing step three is almost mandatory, whether no matter what a website says, and really evaluating your application. Most of our students are already integrated into the program before that ERA season opens, so that when they apply, they know who's applying. The coordinator is going to them saying, "Hey, did you apply to the program?" So then you have your match process. The match process is very system based and stringent. You have to be very careful to follow the rules. We respect the NRMP rules, and we encourage everyone to abide by them because it keeps the playing field level. So you apply to a program, you cross your fingers. You know they have different signal things and this and that you can do within the parameters, but you really cannot do much. Really, your only force is if you're doing a rotation or if you're in a program where they just know you, right? And even the programs follow all of the parameters. And then you have that process in March. People get good news, bad news. This March was very, very brutal on DO graduates and IMGs. I was just talking to a dean of a couple of deans and founding members of DO schools, and they said that their students they were having a hard time, and they ended up doing OMM residencies just to have their foot in the door and make something happen before they can get into primary care. There's many reasons of that. Maybe we'll discuss that in a little bit, Dr. McGuire. And then you have your SOAP process. The SOAP process, back in my and Dr. McGuire's days, we used to call it the scramble, but now it's SOAP, which is it's very good. It's systemized. And the SOAP process, you have to be hands off. You can't really call a program, and it really matters if the program has prior knowledge of you. If you've done program integration there, and through the 500 people they get in a matter of 48 hours, if you will. If they know you, if they know a name, it can go beyond the credentials. And that's when really a lot of the US medical schools are lobbying on behalf of their students, saying, hey, give them a TRI, help them out because their students, they should not go unmatched, right? And, that's the force that a lot of the LCME schools have behind them. And Residence Medical works within the parameters and the rules of programs that we know and are where our students are, where they don't go and even ask during SOAP, but they know they're there, and that helps a lot. And then you have your post match where you can pick up the phone, you can call. That's the process we're in now, but no one's really going to pick up the phone if you're John Smith from Lebanon, if you will, Dr. Maki, right? They're going to say, okay, thank you very much. We're overwhelmed with applicants. We'll call you. Don't call us, like they say in our beloved California, Hollywood. I'm Dr. McGuire. So yes, and then that's where it's the leverage of our foundation and our GME roots fall in, where we pick up the phone and we talk about the student. We give them. I mean, this year, Residence Medical, we helped cancer survivors that people have given up on. U.S. medical schools, tier one. We've helped people that really have overcame big obstacles, right? And gave them a voice. And there's a place for that. There's room for that. There are no shortcuts. Everyone listening, there are no shortcuts to residency. There's no shortcuts with residence medical. But what we do is we give you a voice. We make you a person, not just an ANC ID number. So in saying that, what are your insights, Dr. McGuire, on how this match went and where do you see the trends going in future March Madness, if you will, of graduate medical education? If you can give me some high level thoughts as you are, the front line of this as a leader in GME. You're muted, so let's just. I think your microphone's muted. Yeah.
Perfect. There I go. Good. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So interesting times, and I've seen things change quite a bit. And that the pandemic changed things where many programs started doing virtual interviews. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then as my time in pre-pandemic, we would say, well, if the student showed up and was here on time and went to the dinner the night before and met with the residents following, that showed interest. Now anyone can mail it in and not show that commitment of travel and others. So many program directors, and talking to my colleagues, are saying, we put all this effort in and then that person never came. And many students from other LCME schools, I know this, I was in those for many years, still am. Their associate deans say, tell everybody every program that you're interested there, and you're their top choice. And then program directors, we get fooled, right? So anyway, I look for people who are genuine, who aren't just saying something to get high on the rank list. I'm looking for those students, who are committed to not only our program and know my program, but have an interest in the community we serve. And that's really part of this key too. Many of our programs, especially our community-based programs, like what I have in urban Long Beach now and what I'm developing in rural Northern California, things are moving away from the traditional academic medical centers where we want those graduates who are going to publish articles and did I lose everybody? Okay. That is part of it. But for many of my candidates, we're focusing on the community-based programs to provide good care. And what the community-based programs are really interested in is, will this resident stay on and help our community after the program? If we invest in this person 3, 4, 5, 6 years, will that person serve our community? And what really helps, if that person shows a tie to that community. Perhaps you live there. Perhaps you have family there. Perhaps you've worked there for a year. You know the area. You know the people you want to help. That's a little key that I'm finding, especially in our community-based programs, that commitment to serve that community and to show that interest and that commitment. So I just want to kind of throw that in there. Am I correct, Dr. Evers? Things have changed. We have different residency programs now. We're growing our residency programs, and some of the LCME schools aren't able to meet that. So you have to be, I like to use the term, geo-flexible, right? You have to be able to say, I had one student of mine years ago, and she was not competitive. And she said, and I was trying to tell her as her vice dean, she said, well, I want to stay in California. And I say, no, not everybody's going to get in California. Not everybody's going to match in a program west of Interstate 5. It's not going to be possible. And there are great people throughout the United States that you can serve. And if you truly are a physician committed to helping people, people need help everywhere, be it rural, urban. I just want to throw that out there. And medicine's a great career, no matter what specialty, because ultimately you went into medical school to help people in need. And any specialty, you can do that. I just want to throw that out. So be flexible, right?
So spot on, Dr. McGuire. And I think that you will be, your story, your truth and wisdom is right spot on. I'll give you an example of Dr. Maki. And Dr. Maki,
Right.
speak a little about your journey. So he applied to 4 or 5 programs, but he quite couldn't make it, right?
Right.
There's a program that came up that just got accredited in Mississippi. So what the owner of the hospital, he came down to, he said, you know what? I'm overwhelmed with applicants, even in rural Mississippi, if you will. But what I'll do is, since you bring me good people that are committed, have them fly out and meet me at your office. I want to see if you. And he said, I'm also going to invite 2 or 3 other people that apply. And he lives local here, so he came. There were 3 people he invited. 2 of them said, "Sorry, we can't travel. We can't." So I told Dr. Maki, "You have to be here." I gave him 48-hour notice. You have to be here. He said, "Sir, I'll be there the next flight." So he comes, and the owner of the hospital system and the program director were impressed with that he took the time to actually fly out across country and meet him here at the drop of a dime. And then he had the same question as you had. He said, "Look, I'm going to train these people. They're going to go down to West Hollywood or Beverly Hills, California, and practice." And I said, "You know what? This gentleman will be so grateful if you give him a chance. On paper, he will commit to staying 3 years post-residency to help this program and build the hospital system. You will be in attending if you will have it. So Dr. Maki, in writing, a lot of our candidates do this for the rule thing, has committed 3 years post-training
Yeah.
to stay in that area and serve that community. And that's what sold him, having that commitment and dedication. So you're right on, Dr. McGuire. If you talk a little about your experience, both on your rejections, when we got you interviewed and didn't work out, and how we didn't give up, and how this process was for you, because I'm very proud of you, Dr. Maki, the way you never said no. I know it was frustrating, and your residency specialist counselor, Mr. Gill, would help counsel you during those tough times. But let's talk about the victory and how that journey was for you. Because a lot of these people to the right of me on this chat are exactly where you were a month and a half ago.
Thank you, Dr. Everest. You said the key word, Dr. Everest, is not to give up. Initially, I wanted to, like you said, I stepped up. I even stepped away from medicine a few years, but I could never let it go. I knew at the end of the day, no matter what I did, I was always a doctor. And that's when I finally gave you guys a chance, and it was really the best decision of my life. Like you said, it wasn't easy. I did an interview with multiple programs, and every time I thought, hey, it's finally going to work out, still more disappointment. And you just can't give up. You got to keep fighting through. And eventually we landed the interview in Mississippi, and I could not be more grateful, especially since it's a low-income community that really needs physicians down there. And it's an honor for me to get the opportunity to go on there and be able to be that person that provides the extra care that they need over there. And my advice to everybody here is not to give up. You got to show that you're serious. Like Dr. Everett said, a lot of people are applying for these positions. You got to show that you're serious. You got to show that you're willing to do what it takes. You're willing to go the extra mile. Because if you don't, somebody else is going to. And I did everything that they asked me to do. I went and got hands-on clinical experience. I got interview preparation, which I feel like was a major deal in my situation. I feel like just knowing how to interview was something that put me over the edge and finally got me my position. And finally, we were able to get that spot. And like I said, Dr. Everett's best decision I made in my life. My only regret is not signing on with you guys earlier.
Thank you for that, Dr. Maki. And Dr. Maki said some very, very important key points. We got him multiple interviews, but he had to earn it ultimately. And those, for whatever reason, it wasn't a good fit. But we never gave up, and we kept at it because we believed in him. He had the heart of a physician. He had the heart of a servant, and you have to have that in medicine. And now he's going to have an illustrious career serving one of the most needed areas, like he said. And he says that from his heart. So thank you for that. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. McGuire? Hearing it from Dr. Maki, is Dr. McGuire and I and our group are starting a psychiatry program in a depressed area here in Los Angeles, and those are the people that we're going to look for. Right, Dr. McGuire?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What truly makes a good physician is exactly what Dr. Maki, it's what you said, helping people in the most need. It'd be easy to recruit someone to say, yeah, I want to, treat someone near the beach and enjoy a good life. But I look for commitment for those individuals who want to help the people who need it the most and are committed to the community. And really, if you're motivated for medicine for the right reasons, and the right reasons, it's not money, it's not prestige, it's that compassionate care and that feeling you get in providing a service when someone gets better. And I will say this, though, if you take care of your community will take care of you. And if you really enjoy the work that you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Pick something you really enjoy. And medicine is really that. You're going to work hard no matter where you go. And if you get the satisfaction and the people who work with you support you and are invested in your growth as a physician, that's way better than maybe a geographic location. So you have to be flexible because really that one-to-one patient experience is what's going to drive all of you. You're all committed. You're going to do well. Just open your eyes and be flexible in where that may be. And even in the specialty, I want people to know even the specialty, because ultimately at the core, it's that one-to-one patient care that really drives everything. I'll just put that out there.
Very well said, Dr. McGuire. And in speaking on a couple of those points, and then we'll get to some questions, our guest, is specialty is important, but if you're going to switch up specialties, what I call it is don't keep a shotgun approach. Oh, let me just apply to peds because it's easy. Let me
Right.
apply
Right.
because people like Dr. McGuire have committed their life to psychiatry. So you better
Hmm.
run well if you're going to start especially psychiatry is one of the most difficult residencies. But there was a time when it wasn't that difficult, and still the leader said, "Do you really want psychiatry? Show me you want psychiatry. Why do you want psychiatry? Because it's a field that takes a toll on one mentally. If you have a heart of flesh, like they say in the good book, if you have a heart that cares for people and community." So your curriculum vitae needs to focus on that. You don't want to be scattered all over the place. And on top of that, it's very important to be very crisp and clear about your intentions. Don't just say research if you don't have an interest in research, because there's plenty of programs that don't really care about scholarly activity, and as Dr. McGuire said, care about the clinical component, doing the outreach. Study your program, know what they want, and see if you're a good fit, because they will know right quick if they made the wrong decision 45 days into July, after July 1st or June 15th, whenever orientation is. And really, what can you do now is the question. You did not match, or even if you did match, don't sit at home watching cartoons. As a mentor of mine said one day, get out there, do some clinical in advance of your residency starting. If you haven't, if you weren't successful and you're in post SOAP, positions are going to go on up until September. My students and my candidates will get interviews all the way up until September for a July start. But those people will be integrated. So when that opportunity comes, the program director that they are doing their mentoring under will pick up the phone and call the other program and say, "This guy is great. He never gave up. I'll probably take him next year. But if he has a chance coming this year, I recommend him." Those things are very important. Gaps in your curriculum vitae are poison. And having gaps is really shows this almost, if I don't get it, I'll just give up. But you don't give up, you stay at it. Dr. McGuire and I have probably said this to many, many of our students, just show up. If you just show up, something will happen. People just don't show up in life mentally, physically. So really, it's about in this post match, you have to find a home base where you stay, where you have advocates. Because without advocacy, your odds decrease. And in this difficult game, you want to increase your odds by making yourself visible, by showing your strengths and overcoming your weaknesses. So that's really the advice on this post match strategy. How about yours, Dr. McGuire? And how about yours, Dr. Maki? Because I think you were with us last match when it didn't work out, and we stayed throughout the whole process. So um, how about you first, Dr. Maki? We haven't heard much from you, so you can give some advice as a former graduate that did not achieve residency and now has achieved categorical residency.
Absolutely. One thing that I wanted to touch up on when I was listening to you is showing that you're serious. I know I said this before, but like you said, post match, a lot of people do sit and watch cartoons, and I was one of them. I hate to admit it, but when you got to show your seriousness, you got to show that on paper a lot of times. And if you can go into an interview and discuss all you want about how serious you are, how you want to help people, but then when they look down at your application and they've seen that for the past year or two you've been watching cartoons, as Dr. Evers said, that doesn't really show that you're serious. It's one thing to say it; it's another thing, to act on what you say. And that's why, as Dr. Everest has said, that you need to get active. You need to do some research, get some clinical exposure, show that you're staying fresh, you're getting ready to start your residency, and that you're not just rotting away. Because you know what they say is when you don't use it, you lose it. So what's great about resident medical is even if you sat around a little bit, they have great lectures, great things to get you up to date on your knowledge. Um, I was almost going to Florida before, I had an interview in Florida one time. I started taking Spanish classes. You got to show you're serious. You got to show that you're willing to go to the extra mile. because other candidates, that's going to put you over the edge over other candidates. So that would be my advice. Don't give up and don't say that you're serious. You got to show that you're serious.
Very well said, Dr. Mikey. Thank you so much for that advice coming straight from the horse's mouth, someone that's been there and that never gave up. How about you, Dr. McGuire, kindly? What's some post-match advice for these students that are getting ready? And in that parameter, kindly.
Great. Well, I recruited 4 residents last year post-match. I'll explain why that happened. And it wasn't in the scramble or soap because my program got approved in late April. So findaresident.com, other things, post out there. There are programs, including one that I'm helping with right now that may get approval here first week in May. The program may decide to recruit a class in a month or at least into next year. So there are programs, and keep an eye there. Look at the ACGME website if there are new programs that pop up as newly accredited, and they will show up as newly accredited under the status of the directory of programs with initial accreditation and the date. So there's one little inside way to kind of know is when you look when the residency review committee of that specialty meets. Some of them meet post-match. And if it's a new program getting an application, which you don't know, that's not public. But if it's approved, it is public. And you may be the first to reach out. Oftentimes, programs do not announce they're starting a program. It's difficult because they have to wait to get approval by the ACGME, the accrediting body here in the U.S., to say they have a program. Then, so the websites of the programs may delay a little bit what's actually approved by the American Council of Graduate Medical Education. So that's one thing to look and say, okay, that the Psychiatry Review Committee meets late April. It's a possibility there may be new programs getting approved that first week of May, and they may be interested in bringing a resident on by that July or August. So don't think, not everyone has to start July 1. Programs outside the match can start anytime. My requirements are you need 48 months. And in reality, many residents are off a traditional cycle. They may take some paternal leave for 3 months. They may be on a medical leave. They may do a rotation internationally where they don't get full credit. They may do a research year. Not the whole world doesn't revolve around July 1. I just want to say that. Be flexible.
Does
that make sense too? Yep.
So well said, Dr. McGuire. That's why I said initially that we help our candidates all the way up until September and even in January.
Yep.
But what Dr. McGuire said is golden. And a lot of you guys may not know where to navigate the ACGME or who to call. And that's really what Residence Medical does. Is it's a small world, the GME world. So these are the inside track that Dr. McGuire is giving you. The world does not revolve from July to July, and that's what I tell a lot of our students, and that's what I told Dr. Maki last year. Just there are opportunities that are going to come up. Just be ready for them. So no, that's very well said, and that's you guys are getting some golden advice. I think that we can now go to some questions, and then we'll do some closing remarks. Ms. Lauren, if you can get us to the audience or some questions that were on there, or something that we can. Again, I'd really appreciate it. This is Miss Lauren. You guys are going to be dealing with her a lot if you come to Residence Medical, if you're accepted. So here's a question from Mr. Marvin, Dr. McGuire. He said that, well, Dr. McGuire, I stutter as well. How can I overcome that challenge? So I thought that very good in answering that.
That's a great thing. Well, I'd love to chat with you. Reach out to me. I'll give you my my email address. I'll put it on there. I'll give my personal email address and others. It's there's assistance there, and there are ways to assist with treatments. We have new growing treatments. We're even in agents that are looking at FDA approval in that process. So the key, though, is to say this and reach out to me. I'll talk to you about this more. But no one has ever said that they ever complained that their physician listened to them too much. And just because you're a person who stutters doesn't mean you can't be a good communicator. Patients like someone, and for instance, my very first patient for psychotherapy, and I was worried as a person who stutters. I'm treated now, I'm happy to talk to you about what I'm doing. But she was saying, she had struggled with depression and so forth, and I'm stuttering significantly. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. And she said, you know what, Dr. McGuire, I could see that you've struggled with something your whole life. So maybe you'll really understand me. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So being open, don't be shy. Patients want their physician to be human, someone they could connect with. So use it as a strength to show that you're open, that you're humble, and you're there to care. But
Absolutely.
that's a quick answer. But I'll type in my email address so you could reach out. So, or you guys can always post it too.
Yeah.
But I think this goes to the speakers, or that goes to the audience. Does that go to the audience?
Thank you.
There we go. Okay.
Another question that is said is, what is this year of graduation? What are the current standards for year of graduation at programs now? As they've been lessened and lessened. I know that the HCA programs are, I think, 2 or 3 years out for the main batch. What are the year of graduation requirements overall in the NRMP system, in the hospital system these days? Maybe you can answer that, Dr. McGuire.
So the graduates like what you need to get into residency?
No,
Is
I
that
don't
right?
school. A lot of older graduates were getting, residencies 7 years out, 10 years out, but now it's gone to the point where 2 years out of medical school is almost too much. So how is that?
Oh, I don't think there's really a hard and fast rule except to say we like to see some recent clinical activity of something. Am I right, Dr. Becky? You got to show that you're working somewhere to keep your skills up. I mean, I'm sorry, it's like golf. If you don't golf for a month, you can't swing a club. Medicine's the same way. I look at this. My dad was a physician. He graduated in 1953 from med school, passed away last year. What he learned, what I learned 7 years is different. So the key is the word is practice. Think about that. You're going to practice medicine. You can't give it up. So stay active. Even though you may not be acting as a medical doctor, be involved somehow clinically, whether that's as a public health officer, whether that's as a research coordinator, whether that's you've got to do something clinically. Am I correct, Dr. Mackey? You've got to keep that going. Am I right?
Especially absolutely. They're going to look at that. They're going to be like, if you're serious about our program, you're serious about medicine, but your application says otherwise if you're not doing anything hands-on, because people usually who are interested in medicine or want to come back are going to do some research. They're going to do some clinical experience. If you're not doing that, it just doesn't show that you're that serious,
Right. Absolutely. Doesn't show you're serious in that you'll be, and I'm going to put you on call on July 1 and you're not going to know what you're going to do because it's practice. It really is. You got to stay with it. Like I see people like, he's working as a hedge fund guy and all this kind of stuff. Like, this person really committed to medicine or just trying to make money? I'm sorry.
Exactly. No, exactly.
But if you're working, like one of my guys I took, he's been working as like a public health guy, outreach to the HIV community, the substance community in inner city. And I said, this guy's committed. He hasn't practiced in 3 years, but boy, he's in the trenches. He's helping the people I need to be helped just in another way. I just throw that out there. Yeah.
If you remember the old days, Dr. McGuire, in California, where they had something called the PTAL letter, post-training authorization.
Yes.
If you had 30 days gap, you wouldn't get the PTAL letter.
No.
It's that serious in California. Although the PTAL is gone now, the program directors and the leaders and GMEs still have that mentality. So here's the second question, and I'll ask it, or I'll re-ask it, and then maybe I'll start, and then you can go on with this one, Dr. McGuire. So this says, how do we overcome multiple red flags in an application, especially ones that can't be changed, like YLG and multiple attempts? So I'd like to take a stab at it, and then Dr. McGuire, if you can give more of the system-based.
Okay.
So here it is, guys. You can rehabilitate your CV, because usually if you have a multiple attempts, or if you have a YOG, you have a reason. Dr. Maki had a financial reason. He had to go work. He had to start a business. He had to, get back on his feet after medical school. So why did you have YLG? Because you gave up, or you had to take care of a sick parent, a sick child? You got sick. You have to have a story, right?
Yes.
Tell stories sell. You have to have a real story, not oh well because I was overwhelmed, right? We care. We're in medicine. We care about overcoming odds. We care about stories. And as far as your red flags in multiple attempts, what we found is take your step three, and what we also do, let's say you're going into internal medicine, we will have you take the in training service exam before residency. At least, like for Prite, you can't take it actually, but you can take a practice Prite. So, because a program is concerned about will you pass the boards the first time, will you pass the service exam so you can participate in your PT. So what we have our students do is take their ITE in internal medicine. If they get a good score, we can say, look, yes, they had this. This is the story why. They're here for a year and a half, 2 years for free, serving to prove themselves. This is how they have overcame, and this is how we believe they will pass the boards, and how they have acclimated themselves and gotten the 6 ACGME core competencies under their belt. So there's a rehabilitation process in that. There's no shortcuts in it, but you can be rehabilitated if you are dedicated, if you're committed, if you have a story. We love to give second chances in medicine. Medicine is about second chances. You go to a doctor when you're sick, whether it's an ailment or whether it's a broken bone. You get a second chance by patching it up, if you will. So those are my thoughts on it. I'd like to get your insight on this, Dr. McGuire, please. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry. I guess I get muted when you're talking. So sorry about that. Address it. It's don't ignore it. It's say that you have multiple attempts. Say, hey, I was at other school and I was, learning English and difficult, but I've done this, I've done that, and I've learned, and I've not an excuse, but a story and an explanation. Does that make sense, Dr. Evers? Just explain
Absolutely.
it. Don't ignore it, because if you don't address it, then the Residency director and the committee may just throw it out. If you address it with a decent explanation, with something that would say resonates with that physician, because think about it, your program director may have been in the very same boat. You don't know what that program director's USMLE scores. You don't know that. So it may be the same story and it may hit, and they say, I want to meet this person. Right? So anyway, I
Honestly,
throw that out there. Don't just be open. Physicians have to be transparent. And if you're not transparent with your patients or your team, it's not going to work in this field. So that's that. Make sense? Yep.
that's right on. So, Dr. Maki, any input to give, and we'll do a couple more questions, and then we'll do some closing. Add to that, Dr. Maki?
The program I eventually matched with, I brought it up. I brought up that I had multiple attempts, and they went in on me. I started asking questions about it, and I felt like they were right off the bat. They were pleased that I brought it up, and I can tell. And but that they didn't hold back. But I was ready to answer the questions. I explained what happened and what caused the situation, and most importantly, is you want to show that you learned something from that experience, that it made you better, and I was able to communicate that to them. So if you have gaps and you have multiple attempts, be ready to explain what happened and what could you have done better, and how did that make you a better physician today. I was able to communicate that with that program, and I think that really resonated with them.
Yeah, no, exactly what Dr. McGuire said. So I'll ask, I think I'll ask one more question, then we can do closing statements because we're going on close to an hour. So we have is there anything I can do to persuade a program to consider visa sponsorship for any unfilled position? So I'll take a stab at that, and then Dr. McGuire
Right.
will too. So the ECFMG sponsors the visas, not so much a program. And some programs are adverse to visa sponsorship, especially this year. There's been a lot of scandal, if you will. So the IMGs, non-US IMGs have taken a hit. You can't really persuade a program to do a visa sponsorship because they're not in the immigration business. Residence medical is not in the immigration business. What we're in the business of is finding the best possible doctor that proves themselves and that is dedicated. And if they happen to require a visa, that accommodation can be made. Because very few programs, there are many programs, rural or in deficient areas that will sponsor visas because there's a need for international medical graduates to practice there. But you can't really persuade a program to sponsor a visa. What you can persuade a program is that you are a darn good applicant and you will serve the community, and that visa sponsorship may be a byproduct of that. But if you're going about convincing a program, chances are you're climbing up the wrong tree, you're barking up the wrong tree. Because the programs don't sponsor visas, the ECFMG does, and some programs, just don't want to deal with it. If you're applying to a university program, they're probably going to do visas, but your local community hospital isn't really. They don't have an immigration department. They don't have all.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Dr. McGuire, please.
Absolutely. Because it's got to be a commitment on that and an expense on that program. You have to hire an immigration team. Even when I was at University of California at Riverside, not Irvine, whatever, it's a much smaller school. They didn't have that capability. We don't have anybody here who can do that. And why, McGuire, why are you going to have us hire a person and an office at the expense of the school of $200,000, $50,000 a year of a personnel to do this? There's plenty of other students here. That's a really high barrier unless that program or that hospital system has seen the value of it and they've already done that. Am I correct, Dr. Evans? You're not going to be able, as one candidate, be able to convince them to do that. I don't think it's possible.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So the last question is, there's an IMG, and they're learning meta-analysis to use for publications. As the program said, they can't match you without publications. And you're doing the right thing, but it's more than meta-analysis, right? You have to be able to do bench research. You have to be able to do different aspects of research. Biostats is important. But there's a fine line between that. You have to go into publications, but not just publications. I think Residence Medical this last year, our candidates had a cumulative publication amount of close to 100 publications combined. So yes, research is very important. Scholarly activity is mandated by the ACGME, and Dr. McGuire, is deeply involved with the ACGME. So yes, it's important, and you're doing good learning meta-analysis, but you got to get on a project that's really, really real, that's tied into the leaders in the program. You don't want to go fifth authorship. So you're going to have to find a way of how to request for grant if you're bringing money into a program. That's always helpful, or to your primary investigator. But more than that, you don't want to turn into what's called a lab rat in our field. You want to do your publications, but you also want to balance that with clinical, because we're clinicians, right? You're practicing clinical medicine. Publications are important. I cannot emphasize how important it is. But you want to balance that, and you want to do it for the right reasons. What research interests you, right? If you go and you're going to go to Dr. McGuire and say, hey, I want to do research on stuttering, you better have a reason why you want to do it on stuttering, not just that's what he wants to hear and bells are ringing in his ear. So those are my thoughts, Dr. McGuire, yours, and then we'll do some closing thoughts and end it.
Absolutely. Clinical practice, that term practice. So meta-analysis, great, but you got to have that patient contact and some understanding. Stay in the clinical game, because that's ultimately what you're going to do as a resident. So just throw that in there. Very good point. Remember, practice. The word is practice.
So Dr. Malcolm, if you'll give some closing thoughts to people that are really losing hope and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to wait till next July. I know that Dr. McGuire really hit the nail on the head when he said it's not from July to July. But if you'd like to close, and I'd really like to thank you for volunteering your time, Dr. Malky, and we're just so proud of you. And give back to the community. You've gotten a chance, and I know that you're going to shine because your heart is there, and you're not afraid of hard work and sacrifice. So I want to thank you for letting us a chance to help you achieve your destiny. And any thoughts and closing thoughts?
It's my pleasure, Dr. Everest. I just want to talk to these people because I was in their position before, and You know, it took me a lot of convincing. I'm sure you guys know that. And my only regret, like I said, is not getting on with you guys earlier. And I know it sounds cliche, but when there's a will, there's a way. You know, the only difference between me and somebody else is I never gave up. So just keep that in mind, guys. Keep going. Don't give up. Eventually, you're going to get through.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maki. Any closing thoughts, Dr. McGuire?
No, I thank you. I thank you for this opportunity. Keep the faith. There's always a program out there that will connect with you. Just be flexible, open, and committed.
Thank you so much, Dr. McGuire. I want to thank everybody, and as I'll just, Dr. McGuire said it the best: keep the faith, be practical, do something about it, and you just need advocates on your side to give you a voice, because the white noise in the background of 60,000 applicants for 30, 40 some thousand positions, it's a supply and demand issue. So you need an advocate, you need a strong CV. There are no shortcuts, and we'd be happy to speak to anybody that is serious and willing to dedicate their time and effort into practicing medicine and being the best that they can and serving the community. You can reach out to us. Thank you, gentlemen. Blessings to you. Happy holiday season here, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Dr. McGuire. Thank you, Dr. Maki.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Take care. Bye bye.